What is up, everyone? Good morning again. It's your host, Carlos Ponce, and this is another live episode of Advancio Talks. And by the way, if you are just discovering us, welcome. And but if you've been here since the very beginning of the show, 2022, you know what we are about. So, Advancio Talks is where we sit down with the people actually building the future of business and technology. So, not just talking about it, but doing it. CTOs, founders, the folks making decisions that matter. So, whether you're drinking coffee, commuting, or just curious about what's actually happening in tech, stick around because today we have Justin O'Connor. He is the founder of Onward, and I'm going to let him introduce himself in a minute. And so stick around because Justin has got stories and insights that you won't hear anywhere else. That being said, let's jump right in. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carlos, and thank you for having me at Advancio Talks. It's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you for the audience who's joining us today to listen in and hopefully gain a couple of cool pieces of perspective. Founder and CEO, Onward Platforms. We're an engineering experiences company. I'm going to tell you a little bit more later about Infra Codebase, which is a flagship product we're building to improve developer experiences in the cloud. I've had over a decade in cloud across Azure, AWS, GCP, in heavily regulated industries, both in terms of in the enterprise. So feeling the struggle of the business and the tech teams and the CTO and the competing priorities and the politics within that, as well as from being a practice leader of consulting and selling consulting services around cloud into companies working across almost every industry. I've got deep technical expertise in cloud systems and cloud architecture design. I'm also director of cloud engineering, but a lot of expertise as well in scaling AI systems. This is a place I've spent the last 3 years really dedicating my time, is sort of separating the hype from what's actually getting built, and then how we can build real systems that run in production with AI. So it's been a really fun journey.
I can't imagine how fun it has been. I mean, I took a peek at everything that you've done, and it's been quite a ride. So tell us about Onward platforms, or Onward for short. Tell us about Onward. What is the story behind the company, the journey? Can you tell us about what's your value proposition? What's going on there? We'd love to hear about it and what you're building. So go ahead and tell us about Onward.
Yeah, I'm happy to tell you about it. So look, I've been in engineering for a long time. I've always been very close to the engineers while also kind of battling at the front lines of the business, figuring out how to build bridges and work together with every stakeholder within the enterprise. And I think one thing that's always really stuck out to me, though, is like the great developer experiences are so important for employees at a company, especially when you have a product company. But even if you offer services or you have products that you sell as a part of your services, philosophically, I've always had this concept that happy developers create happy customers, and happy customers create happy investors. Right. And so thinking about how do we create great engineers experiences for people within, especially large companies where the culture and where the speed can be slow, there can be a lot of friction, there can be a lot of frustration. How do you try to optimize for great experiences? And so Onward was designed to be a product company that builds tools for developers and for cloud engineers that help them to enjoy the work that they do better by connecting them more to people, connecting them more to their customer, and connecting them more to the outcomes that they deliver through the work that they do every single day.
So is it a platform specifically geared at the tech crowd, of the software developers, engineers? Is my assumption correct?
Yeah, I mean, my background is largely in cloud engineering, although so I've done a ton of front-end development as well as back-end API development and things like that. It's really designed to build platforms that help developers, cloud platform engineers, anybody that touches a keyboard to write code and push that to GitHub or to publish it to some cloud environment or wherever it may be. These are the builders, right? So it's really to build great things for the builders to help them do their job better and be happier doing it.
Right, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about Onward. Okay, so today, Justin, as you remember, we agreed we're going to talk about something very specific. The theme of today's conversation is, as we agreed, is the system behind great teams, or how developer experience and technical foundations drive real outcomes.
Mhm.
Let's start there, Justin. Tell us and the audience why you felt this was a good topic to talk about today. Let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm passionate about it, right? So I've seen the impact that happens when your engineering leaders actually understand the tech, can go to bat for you with the business, understand the challenges and the things that you're going through, actually help to be a great mentor to you and help you to grow in your career and help you to become the kind of person on the team that everybody wants because you create measurable business impact, and that you're able to go and really understand not just what you're solving, but why you're solving it, so you can get connected to your customer and to your company to do amazing things. And so really that's why I thought the developer experience would be a great topic for us to talk about, because as somebody who's built a lot of developer platforms and IDPs and like ways for engineering teams to work better together and to really contribute meaningfully to their companies, I thought it'd be a lot of fun to share a little bit of what I've learned through this journey and dig in.
Okay. Speaking of journeys, well, you have worn like many hats, at UX, UI designer, front end and back end developer, CI, CD specialist. So I'm curious, how did this multidisciplinary journey shape your perspective as a tech leader?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a recognition that comes with kind of putting your hands in all of it, which is that it really takes an army of people to build great software. There's a lot of different disciplines, and to really become great, you have to just dive in with curiosity and try to figure out how all the pieces work together. And so when you dive into whether it be DevOps and you're learning about deployments, you're diving into cloud, learning about architecture, or you're learning about software engineering and you're optimizing for really becoming the best at those types of things. When you get into it, you really can realize how complex each one of those disciplines are. And maybe one of the reasons why a lot of people who are very deeply technical have sort of doubts about AI in its current form today, about being able to really replace humans in our current ecosystem, because we know as builders how complicated everything really is when you pull back the covers, because it's 20% tech and it's 80% everything else, the business, the process, the complexity of working within large organizations. So when I think about all the different pieces, and when I think about it in the context of developer experience, you really have to frame it in my mind as not a pure tech conversation. It's
Mhm.
really a conversation around the ecosystem of people, process, and technology that it requires to ship real software to real people.
Okay, okay. And I'm curious, what was let's call it the pivotal moment that shifted your focus from being hands-on with code to leading teams and shaping developer experience?
Yeah, like I would say that it never really changed for me. So one thing that's really interesting is that I actually never stopped coding. Even today, I might write 5,000, 6,000 lines of code a day as a director, as a leader, as a founder of a company, especially as a founder of a company, because you have to wear so many hats and be able to solve so many problems. Staying hands on has always been important to me, because I would say the real shift wasn't away from the keyboard. It was in why I stayed close to it. So I realized that being able to be technically fluent allowed me to act as a better bridge between engineers and the business, and also to be able to build great companies. So
Mhm.
understanding firsthand why something was hard, where friction existed, and how systems could be improved, provided a real engineering perspective that allows me to communicate trade-offs clearly across engineering, product, and business. So to me, it's not really about moving away from code. It's about thinking about how continuing to be technically great, that combination of things helps you to be credible with engineers while translating complexity into outcomes.
Mhm.
So as you start to move up, so I would say it's often framed as an either or decision when you start to like progress in your technical career. I would say it's optional that you actually step away from the code, but you do have to become more strategic.
Absolutely. You mentioned and you heard. I just heard something, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you emphasized that great developer experience leads to happier customers and investors, right? So that's what I heard. So can you walk us through like maybe like a specific example where improving something like DX created measurable business impact?
Yeah, I would say I'll be honest. This isn't always something that's measured perfectly with metrics, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also one of those things that becomes hard not to believe once you've seen it enough times with your own eyes. So when developers enjoy what they're doing, when work happens in low friction environments with good support, and when people genuinely understand how the work connects to the company, the customer, and the problem that they're trying to solve, something just changes for
Mm-hmm.
your engineering team. Like you get clarity, purpose, and momentum in the right direction. So I would say, like in practice, I've seen this show up less in less rework, fewer handoffs, better decisions, stronger ownership for key members of the team or the entire team. So those things are hard to tie to a single KPI, but they absolutely show up downstream in more predictable delivery, better customer outcomes, and more confidence from leadership. So great
Mm-hmm.
DX, I would say the best way to frame it maybe is that great DX creates the conditions where good business results can become the natural outcome, not something that you have to constantly push for. That's the way I think about it. I've never seen one number that tells the story, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that kind of gives us an idea. So, and on another note, how do you? I'm curious. How do you balance developer autonomy and creativity with the need for standardization and consistency across a team? Can you tell us about that?
yeah. So autonomy, creativity. I don't really see autonomy and standardization as opposites. So the problem is what we choose to standardize. Like if your engineers are constantly making decisions about environments, deployments, or just basic infrastructure patterns that already exist, that's not autonomy. That's just friction for the sake of friction.
Right,
It's not
right.
helping you. So I try to standardize when I work with teams the boring, repetitive, high friction stuff so that teams don't have to think about it. When those foundations are really solid, developers
Mhm.
actually get more freedom where it matters, how they solve problems and how they design systems and how they experiment. So good standards, I would say, don't limit your creativity. They remove noise so creativity has somewhere to go.
Okay, okay. Um, and I'm also wondering about, on the business side, when business priorities conflict with technical debt or infrastructure needs, how do you navigate those conversations with stakeholders?
It's interesting because this is one of those things. I think it's all about framing.
Hmm.
I think if we're engineers and we're not being political and we're not thinking about it, it's easy to we tend to go sideways when we're framing those conversations as engineering is asking for more time or engineering is stuck in like some quagmire, like they've got something that's blocked by something else. The business just hears excuses and complaints and things aren't moving. So I typically, when I interact with the business, try to reframe them around risks, constraints, and future impact. So technical debt and weak infrastructure don't just slow engineers down, they limit what the business can safely do next. So if you frame it as kind of an investment in the way that you can move faster as you continue to more robustly build out a system and you can show the value of that, that really helps. So connecting those dots clearly, and things like delivery speed, reliability, customer trust, and even the ability to adopt new capabilities like AI, it becomes more of a prioritization discussion instead of a conflict with the business. Most in really honestly, most leaders aren't opposed to investing in foundations. They just need help understanding the trade-offs in terms of what they care about. We tend to put things in terms of engineering and what we care about. We care about performance and optimization and scalability, but we really have to talk about the business outcomes when we talk to the business so that we can have a lot of productive conversations around why we're taking extra time to improve something or have a budget for debt or for experimentation. It has to show some ROI in some way to a business person can understand.
Great. Can you share an example where you had to push back on a business initiative
Oh,
because the technical foundation wasn't ready, and how the conversation went?
yeah, definitely. So, this is such a good question for the moment that we're in. We're seeing this a lot right now in the enterprise and industry when it comes to AI. So there's this happens almost daily for me, but like there's huge pressure to move fast, and it's easy for teams to commit based on what AI marketing promises rather than what is actually possible. So you probably heard the stat MIT says that 95% of early AI pilots are failing within the enterprise. And it's rarely because engineers aren't capable. These are really smart people. They've built everything at your company. More often, the foundation just isn't there for AI itself today. So, for example, SDKs turn out to be immature. They're like vaporware or cloud tooling. Doesn't behave as it's expected to, or agents can't be monitored and tested in a way that they would need to run reliably in production and be operated by another team. So in those cases, pushing forward actually creates more risk, not progress. I know people are really excited to get into it, but I would say these projects are important to frame around. We need to do experiments. We need to understand the limitations of what's possible today, and then we need to frame up the use cases against what we can actually do to create value. So when I've pushed back, the focus hasn't been on. I try not to say we can't do this. Again, kind of comes back to the previous conversation about how we frame things, but it's more here's what would likely break, and here's what we need in place in order to be successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you frame it that way, most leaders appreciate the honesty because it avoids expensive false starts and builds trust instead of eroding it. You see this right now. There's kind of a double-sided thing between enterprise and consulting because I come from both sides. The last comment I'll make on this is that in the enterprise, there's this slow erosion of trust from the business and the engineering teams because of AI. AI is a little bit causing this. They're saying, why can't you move faster? Because AI is here, but you're not moving any faster than you did before. Why isn't that happening? And then on the other side, too, of in consulting, there's this concern about AI and AI tools eroding the professional services and becoming commoditized into software. And so really you have to think about this from the perspective of those folks and say how do you push back in the ways that are appropriate, but also lean into experimentation and then make sure you set up the right contextual framing around it so you can actually be successful and build trust, not build distrust when things don't go well.
Okay. Speaking of AI, and as ChatGPT would put it, in the ever-evolving AI landscape, right? Which is a cliche of ChatGPT. It always gives you that. So with your experience I'd like to talk about the AI part. So with your experience in generative AI, how do you see AI tools reshaping the developer experience and the skills that engineers need?
Yeah. So the way I think about the shift in engineering over the next period of time is that teams that pull ahead are going to be the ones that treat developer experience and internal platforms as first-class products, not side projects. So they'll invest in strong foundations, repeatable systems and environments that make it easy for people to do good work. I think in terms of what it means to be on a team and need to be able to deliver these outcomes, it's less about coding anymore. I would say even today, as a founder of a company that's building the foundation for what comes next in cloud infrastructure, an agentic platform for cloud infrastructure through infra code base, I would say that what is really needed is creativity, empathy, systems thinking, just general critical thinking, openness to new ideas, and to be able to be willing to fail at things and try new things. So in some ways, it's different in that coding is not your value. Your value is your ability to be human, to bring that human touch into software, and to be able to think in a way that's creative and critical and systems minded so that you can actually build great things with great teams. So I think that's a little the shift. I don't think the teams necessarily I don't think the teams are necessarily going to be bigger. They'll probably be more effective. They'll onboard faster. They'll adopt to new technologies like AI more safely and deliver more predictably. So I don't think the difference is going to be raw talent. I think it'll be systems, and the systems have to be developed by the teams and that are out there actually creating the things day to day.
Okay. Yeah, and that's right now. But what about the next 3 to 5 years? I mean, I'm looking ahead to the next 3 to 5, 6 years. I'd like to ask you what shift in engineering team structure or developer experience you think will separate winning companies from the rest.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, I think teams that pull ahead will be the ones that treat developer experience as a first-class product. And AI is a new tool in the toolkit. It introduces a lot of new skills that people need to learn. For
Mhm.
senior engineers, in some ways, that's like a rethinking about what my value is, like how I approach my day-to-day work and how to solve problems. But as a leader, it also means reaching into those newer members of your team and pulling them up and helping them become the next leaders in generation within your company. I think some of this AI conversation is a little discouraging, I think, for new developers who want to get into the field, because it feels like, well, the senior engineers are going to do all the work until they die. And then by the time they die, there won't be any more jobs for new people. But I think that it's short-sighted for companies to think that it doesn't make sense to hire new people to bring in the next generation of creative thinking, critical thinking, new fresh ideas into the company and new skill sets. Like I've worked with some junior engineers that can run circles around some senior engineers because they just won't buy into the fact that the writing the code by hand is not as valuable as it used to be anymore. So yeah, I think what's going to happen is just a change in the shape of what a developer means. Like computers used to be people, now they're like devices. I think developers, you could see a device being a developer, and then what we do as people is bring in the human connectivity, the mesh between the customer and the company and the people on the team to solve the right problems. I think with AI, it's easy to solve every problem, even if it's not a problem. It's really about having that focus and discipline and being able to find the right things to focus on as a team.
Right. Yeah, well, I think we're leaning towards a very important aspect of the AI equation, as I would call it, which is the human element. Let me give you an example, if I may. So far, we've talked about software developers, we've talked about the engineering teams, we're talking about technology as a whole, how to build a company effectively, and so on and so forth, right? But in my case, for example, I am not an engineer by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just a user of technology, of course. And I have some working knowledge of different aspects of technology because I have to. I mean, to communicate in a podcast about technology, I need to know some things. But again, I'm not an expert. I'm from the layman's perspective. In my case, for example, if I use Claude or ChatGPT, that kind of it's convenient. I use it regularly for doing things what I do, but I'm concerned about what that is going to do to my thinking skill. I would like to pick your brain, or I'd like to hear what your philosophy is on integrating AI into, let's say, development workflows without creating over dependence or even losing critical thinking skills. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I'm like looking at a world now where I can just will things into existence, working with AI and talking to computers. It is certainly easier to be mentally lazy. I think what really becomes important, though, is what I've at least found in my own workflow for leveraging AI to do development and maintaining critical thinking is that I look at it like a Tesla. Tesla has fully self-driving. It'll take you down the road. It can take you basically all the way to your destination, but your hands are still on the wheel. You're still the one guiding where the car is going, and you need to make sure that you are prepared at all times to steer it in the right direction if it's making mistakes. And I think this is where what's interesting with AI is you end up sitting as like sort of the strategic layer over top of the activity. I find that I'm consistently monitoring 2 to 3 agents at one time, seeing what they're doing and making sure they're making like good aligned architectural decisions. A good example is yesterday I was making a change in one of our APIs, and it was deciding to create a brand new API endpoint for that. And so for me, being able to hold on to hey, we have this API, it was built with this interface, it has this architecture. We should be borrowing from that same API. We shouldn't be rebuilding this. The AI isn't being critical thinking. It's just thinking about how to get you from A to Z as fast as possible. So really, really focusing on context engineering, the problem to be solved, the destination to get to, your principles and standards and the way that you're going to do development. One of the things that I love about what we're doing at InfraCodebase through Onward platforms is we're building the agent control plane that lets you code, design, ship, and operate cloud infrastructure that you can trust at enterprise scale. And the way you trust at enterprise scale is you build contextual knowledge of the team together. So there's one other future world, I would say, outside of even just maintaining your own critical thinking, is like there's there's almost like a hive mind of critical thinking and knowledge and experience within your company, and how you pull that together to draw on it to amplify your own impact and to be able to do great things. So it's super important to me that fundamentals don't go away with AI, that you stay focused on like as AI becomes, I would say, as AI becomes more embedded into how we build software, the fundamentals are probably going to matter more than ever, to be honest. I'm in that camp. Some people say it's the opposite. I'm kind of there, like strong foundations, clear ownership, kind of bringing this back like to thoughtful developer experience and what teams use. Like I think to use this tool safely and effectively, they have to have that wrapped around it. So the future belongs to those people that are designing those systems intentionally and that are investing their own personal time in maintaining that critical thinking.
Right. Speaking of the future, well, we're first of all, we're approaching the final segment of today's conversation, and I hate it because time flies when you're having fun, and this is extremely interesting. But I got time for two more questions. One is the one I'd like to ask you now is based on what I know about you, what I've read about you, you have goals of founding a solopreneurship or becoming a CTO at a company with aligned vision. So, what does that aligned philosophy look like to you? In other words, what problem in the tech or talent space are you most excited about solving in your next chapter?
Yeah, I mean, what we're doing today really excites me with InfraCode Base. So I would say in the world that I've lived in cloud architecture, where you see that the business has a wonderful idea, they funded it, the teams are excited, there's motivation to get work done, and then that kind of materializes into something that's a 3 to 6 to 12 month effort just to build cloud infrastructure, so that the business can build what they need. Technology is not moving at the speed of business today, and a big part of that is because there's a gap between speed and trust that AI is not addressing today with individual developer tools. And so one thing that I'm really personally excited about is I used to think, oh, I want to be the CTO of an existing company or something like this. But I think when I really dig deep about what I want to try to solve here is I want to create something new that nobody's ever considered before, that solves a problem in a way that exactly is what they need it to be. And so for me, like what I'm really excited about right now is kind of on the founder side, building the best global brand in the world for cloud infrastructure development using agents that tie into your cloud, into your existing SaaS investments, into your existing patterns and security requirements to create aligned infrastructure. To me, that's going to remove so much friction and so much toil from the engineering team and really unlock business teams to create amazing things. And then on the kind of like the big four and consulting side, like I'm really excited about building AI systems that scale to 100,000 people globally within like advisory, tax, or audit within such large companies. I think that most companies have more platforms than actual agents, and I think that thinking about how you scale the value of AI within these companies is going to become really important given the level of investment that's being made. So I love building. At the end of the day, it really comes down to like I love building for people to solve a real problem. So that would be what I'd say about that.
Okay, great. Yeah, we have reached the final moment of what I call the words of wisdom, right? So, and I like to prompt you to share your words of wisdom. Of course, you can add to it, but I'm curious personally to ask you if you were advising a company, let's say hiring their first CTO or building their first engineering team, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice?
Top 3 pieces of advice. I would say focus on solving a real problem. Know who you're solving it for.
Okay.
And create the kind of systems for your team that enable them to help you get to where you need to go for those customers. I think that the biggest opportunity for companies right now is realizing that developer experience and business outcomes aren't separate things. So when teams have strong foundations, low friction, where delivery becomes predictable and decisions get better and trust builds across the organization, that's where real impact comes from. So if I'm talking to a CTO or I'm thinking about how I'm going to build a business or work with a team, it's that like I want to know who I'm solving it for, that it's a real problem, and that we're creating the right systems to help people be successful.
Awesome. Perfect. Any final words of wisdom? No, really?
No, look, the focus here is really developer experience. If you take nothing else away, just remember this: great outcomes come from great systems, And great systems start with how we support the people who are building them. So don't lose your empathy, don't lose your humanity. Your humanity is what sets you apart from AI. So,
and I think that's in the day and age of AI. I think that's great. That's a great takeaway for this conversation. And you folks, please make sure you make a note of it. So, Justin, it's been a great pleasure. So, how can people get a hold of you? I believe you're on LinkedIn, right?
Yep, you can see scrolling at the bottom of the screen here. This is my LinkedIn profile. Would love for you to follow me. I'm constantly trying to produce content for the community that they find valuable around cloud and AI. So if thinking about cloud architecture, cloud engineering, and AI systems is important to you and agents, then please feel free to follow me and engage with the content and be a part of the discussion there on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and you folks, if you're watching and you cannot memorize the number, Justin O'Connor at the Onward. So I mean, you shouldn't be that hard to find. What about any emails to share?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me directly at my personal company email as well, justin@onwardplatforms.com. If you're interested in learning more about what we're building at InfraCodebase, what Onward Platforms is about, and how it could help you to accelerate and reduce friction within the cloud engineering space within your company, like more than happy to talk to you about that and how that problem is getting solved today beyond the individual developer IDE tools that companies are currently pushing into engineering teams to try to adopt. And I guess the final place would be our website, infracodebase.com. There's a ton of great information there about what we're building. Would encourage everybody to sign up if you're in the cloud space or adjacent to the cloud space, whether you're a security engineer, a platform engineer, a cloud architect, an operations member of the operations team within those organizations, DevOps. It's a great platform for automating everything from planning, design, coding, and shipping your cloud infrastructure. So would love to get your thoughts and opinions on the platform as well.
So there you have it, folks, infracodebase.com. It's easy to remember. Just go there, reach out to Justin, and he'll get back to you right away. Justin, the only thing left for me to do is just thank you big time for having been with us on the show. I think it was a great conversation, and I look forward to more in the future. And folks, just a quick reminder, if you're for those viewers out there who are watching, just keep an eye on advancio.com/tech talks, tech dash talks. I'm sorry, /tech talks. And for future, every Wednesday at 11 o'clock Central Standard Time, we have conversations like this that I'm sure you won't want to miss. That being said, again, Justin, thank you. It's been a great pleasure. Stick around as we go off the air, Justin, and the rest of you folks. You have a wonderful hump day of the week and the rest of your day and the weekend as well. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.